Hello Facebook, how are we doing? Sorry, I'm just balancing my camera. I'm getting better at that as the weeks go on. How are we all doing? I hope to see lots of you here because this is a really key topic. So if you haven't met me before, my name's Kelly. I'm from spiritualawakeningsigns.com and I help people like you who are moving through awakening to move through it as easily as possible and also to do it with as least amount of symptoms as we can possibly get, because we do get a lot of very challenging symptoms on the awakening journey and it sure isn't easy. But we should be improving some of that today, tackling anxiety first. So what I'd like to do is to tell you a little bit about my experience of anxiety during awakening, which I'm sure many of you will be able to relate to. And then we're going to get into some of the information behind why that's happening and what you can do to stop it. And then of course we're going to have some nice energetic downloads at the end. Don't worry, I'll explain it all so you know what's coming before it comes. Okay, so initially for me, if you haven't read too much about my journey, went through a spiritual awakening, still going through a spiritual awakening, we all are, but had about 4 years of extremely intense experience that was very, very difficult, very hard to manage. So my experience of anxiety with awakening kind of began with anxiety. You know, I felt like I was wakening up and I had this sense of, you know, when you're in that in-between stage where it's like, it could be anxiety, but it could also be excitement. It's like, is it butterflies or is it dread? I'm not quite sure. And for a lot of the journey, it kind of switched between those two things. And sometimes, particularly if there was an astrological event, a full moon, a new moon, any type of astrological shift, I would feel the anxiety really badly and could never understand why. There was nothing I could do to discharge it. You know that feeling where you just feel that you could climb the walls. It's just so uncomfortable. It's awful. It was very, very hard. And then it kind of changed as I moved through my awakening. There were times where I would go through pockets of it, times of just extreme intense anxiety. Don't know what to do, don't know how to fix it. Absolutely awful. And then the further in we got, it became like anxiety attacks. So if I was, trying to run away from it during the day, which is easier to do if you keep yourself busy and occupied and all these things, then what would happen is I would go to sleep. And then after about 10 minutes of dozing off to sleep very peacefully, I would be awoken with a jolt. And I was actually having anxiety attacks in nighttime. And of course, I'm sure you guys will know, it's 100 times worse when you wake up all alone, having a panic attack that you just can't do anything about. It's awful. So that was my experience. It doesn't have to be yours. Isn't my experience anymore, because I've learned to put some things in place to improve this. And I'm definitely going to be helping you guys to do that today. And let's really nail this and make it much better. So I just want to say a quick hello to anyone who has said, hi Trish, how you doing? Morning where you are. It's afternoon here in Scotland. Hi Rebecca. And Tadas, is that the right way to say that? That's a cool name. Right, cool. Hi to everyone, so glad that you've all joined us, and I'm really excited to deal with this and to tackle this today. And when I thought about, I've been planning to do Facebook Lives almost every Friday, and when I was thinking about it yesterday and during the week, I just felt a real surge, like we have to deal with anxiety. This is a big deal and I can feel the energy of it at the moment. Hi Laurie. Hi Mel, how you doing? Fab. So, Marie Joanne, hello from Canada. Got quite a lot of Canadians on here. We get people from everywhere. Hi Jeannie. It's so fab to see you all. Thank you for joining us. Hi Rachel. Fab. Right, so let's get started. So the first thing that is important for you to know is that if you're going through anxiety as part of your awakening, there is nothing wrong with you, okay? You're not doing it wrong. You're not, there's nothing lacking that you're not, managing it better. I don't know anyone who goes through awakening that scrapes their way through without having anxiety at some point in the experience. It's a natural part of the experience, okay? However, that doesn't mean that you have to suffer it. Just because it's part of the experience and it's a common sign or symptom does not mean that it's something that you have to experience in order to ascend, okay? It's just a symptom. And if it's a symptom, that means that if we can recognise the cause, we can eradicate it, or we can at least alleviate it, which I'm sure would be a welcome relief for most of you. So for you to be able to understand this, I'm going to talk through the first few stages of spiritual awakening so that you can get an understanding of what it is that's triggering this in the first place. Because usually if you can get that understanding, it'll release a lot of the anxiety that's happening on the mental level. Because there is an aspect of your brain and your conscious mind that's afraid at the moment. It's like, I don't know what this is, I'm frightened, is everything okay? Am I okay? There's a lot of fear there, so talking through this will help to dispel a little bit of that. So when your awakening begins, okay, this is at a predetermined time that you decided before you came down here. You know, you had a little decision, you said, at this point, that's going to be the right time for me to awaken and to start this ascension process. So at a predetermined time, a large influx of energy starts coming into your space, okay? So this is what we're talking about, that high vibrational white light energy starts to just blast right into your space, okay? And it happens on purpose. It's there on purpose because what it does, when that high vibrational energy and that really high intensity energy comes into our space, it does some really important things, okay? So basically what it does is it begins to open up all of your chakras. Okay, so you know I was talking about Kundalini energy before. It opens up this space right through our centre, from the base of the spine, right to the top of the head and further out, because that's our connection to source, okay? It opens us up. It also completely heightens our emotions. And that's important. You might notice this emotional sensitivity that you've developed, but it's necessary because we need this emotional sensitivity so that we can feel, because if we can feel, then we can heal. So these chakras that have been blasted wide open and all your psychic senses become blasted wide open. And that makes sure that any issues, any themes, any emotional pains that you've got from your past lives start bubbling right up to the surface. And then we wonder why we're in emotional turmoil and unable to cope. It's because normal people don't deal with this. Normal people deal with one issue at one time. We don't. We're basically letting all the issues from all our past life pains bubble right up to the surface. And you can kind of end up drowning when you're swimming through that. It can be really difficult. It doesn't mean that you have to suffer it. Like I'll always say with these things, it doesn't mean that's the way it has to be. But that is what tends to happen. It's so that it all comes to the surface and we can feel it, we can heal it, and we can release it and move on through this awakening process. The challenge that we've got with that is that that initial energy that came into your system to awaken you, to open those chakras up, to heighten that sensitivity, to open those psychic senses, that very energy that came to awaken you in the first place isn't really that compatible with the physical body. So I don't know if you've noticed, but down here is kind of dense. There's not that much light, high vibrational energy, and it's because it's not that easy for that energy to be sustained down here. It's a really dense vibration. So when that is blasted into your system, we really only need it to get the ball rolling. We really only need it to help us awaken initially. Once we're awake, we can keep on moving on this process. But the problem that we've got is that if we don't have some way of bringing physical density, so think of physical density like the anchor that holds that high vibrational energy down into the physical earth and into your physical body, then you kind of become a little bit like an electrical charger in the socket. Charging, 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 buzzing, 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 on the verge of going on fire. Sometimes it can feel like that's what your physical body becomes, because there is no outlet for that energy. There's no outlet, there's no way for it to go. And the physical body isn't designed to sustain that type of energy all the time. So what we need is we need that physical density to anchor it out, and that's what smooths things down. So it feels like anxiety, but actually what it is it's our bodies perceiving it as anxiety when really we're just way too charged. Way too charged. And you'll know this because if you can start to ground that physical energy, you'll find that that charge is gone and that anxiety calms down, because your body's not panicking anymore, like, what's all this energy? I don't know what to do with it. Everything can smooth out because you're only being the bridge. I always talk about the bridge between heaven and earth. You're the bridge. You're not meant to be the container to gather up all this energy with nowhere for it to go. Okay, it's not meant to stop at you, it's meant to go through you. And this is why we need to bring grounding into place, because that allows that energy to keep on moving. And when we can really ground that energy into our space, that's when we bring those emotional sensitivities, they just come down that tiny little bit. So you can still feel, you can still heal, but they're not out of control. That anxiety comes right down because the charge is not there, buzzing, buzzing, buzzing in your system, buzzing all the electrics of your system and your soul. It calms down. And it smooths out a lot of other kinks, like it calms down your psychic awareness. If your empathy's out of control and you're picking up everybody's stuff, it just brings it all right down. It's so important that you learn to properly ground when you're coming through this process, so that you can really start to bring density to the high vibrational energy that's coming through, and so that you can fulfill your life purpose, because that energy is meant to come down through this space that we're trying to clear, right down through here and through you out into the real world. And it can't do that if you are an ungrounded, jumbled up mess, which is no problem, because we've all been there, me included. Okay, that happened to me too, but it doesn't have to be that way. So we'll talk about some things that we can do to take that charge out, to take that anxiety out of your system, because remember, it's only an electrical charge, it's only the high vibration of that energy that's too much for our system at the moment, and we just want to level that out. So we're going to talk about some of the things that we can do to improve that. So let's see. Okay, so the best advice that I can give you in grounding this energy is actually probably not physical grounding techniques, because some of you have probably found, especially if you've got a lot of anxiety and you've got really difficult symptoms, that traditional grounding doesn't really work for us. Okay, and for all the reasons that I've explained with these stages of awakening, doesn't really work because our energies are just too charged, too high, and anything else that we try to do to ground us can sometimes actually make us feel worse. So we're going to cover that. So these are the first steps. These are things that you want to avoid and remove from your system. Okay, just like taking this little plug out of the electric socket, giving it a little break, that's what we need to do for your body and for your physical soul. Okay, so the 3 key rules, okay, they are: stay away from anything that is going to charge your energy, stimulate your kundalini, so that energy coming up through the chakra system, or alter your energetic or psychic state. Okay, we're going to go over those again so they make sense. So the best way for you to release this anxiety, to have less anxiety or no anxiety throughout your awakening, is to avoid 3 key things. The first one is anything that charges your energy, anything that stimulates the kundalini, and anything that alters your energetic or psychic state. So you've probably all done the free grounding course, which is just vital information. So if you haven't done it, I'll always say www.spiritualawakeningsigns.com. It's a 5-day free course. It's on every page. I've plastered it everywhere because it's so important. This stuff's covered in there. So we're talking about things that we love, things like crystals, incense, meditation, yoga, energy practices. These are all things that we need to be quite careful with. The average person doesn't. The average person can do these things and it does not affect them whatsoever. But for us, our energies are so volatile and they've really had that shock, they've been blasted open. We need to be so much more gentle, and we really need to look at the things even around our physical home that are continuously keeping that charge, keeping that charger in the socket, that electrical energy going, where you don't have anywhere to discharge it. That's not to say that you have to avoid these things forever, because once this energy levels out and once you ground your energy, you can add them back in. So now I can use incense as much as I like. I can use crystals. I wear crystals often. I can do meditation. But when I came through awakening, every time I did that, it swirled me down into this kind of crisis, and I couldn't understand why. It put me back in that space where my emotions were more heightened, and my psychic space was too open, and I couldn't understand what I was seeing, and I had a lot of confusion and terrible anxiety. I just could climb the walls with anxiety, and it's all simply because I was way too charged and I had to ground that energy. And that started with removing some of these things that I was using and doing on a daily basis from my space. And if you're not sure about it, the thing I always say is, it has to resonate with you. It has to resonate with you in your core, in your heart, in your gut, that you know for sure that that's something that works for you. So what I always say to people is, test it out. Take these things out of your space, take them out of your bedroom, take them out of your living space. Try to avoid meditation, or if you're doing astral travel, these are all things that are going to tip you over the edge. Just hone them in for just a little bit of time, a week, 2 weeks, and see how you feel. If you feel better, you'll recognise that it is that charge that's causing the problem, and you'll feel so much better. But I cannot tell you enough, I wish someone had handed me a handbook when I was going through this experience, because I spent hours trawling the internet looking for answers and being completely unable to find any. So it sounds odd and it sounds peculiar to say, you know, come away from some of that spiritual stuff to stop your symptoms. But if you just allow that energy to ground out, you'll find that it really balances and things will get much better. That is a promise. Okay, let's see what else. So now I want to talk about when grounding isn't working. Okay, so for a lot of us, we try to ground ourselves. Maybe we're using crystals, maybe we're using meditation, using oils. We're trying to ground ourselves. So this is the thing where there are kind of two key points to this. So we're bringing in the physical grounding. We're taking out things that are going to charge your energy just for just now, not forever. Okay, just a week or two. See how you feel. And you add it in just little bits. And if you start going off the scale again, then you just refrain a little bit. Give your energies time to adjust, because what we are going through, hardly any human can survive through usually. It's incredibly intense. It's really impactful on the physical body. So you're just going to test things very gently and see how you feel. That's the most important thing, okay? So if grounding isn't working, there are two aspects to this, okay? So we need to physically ground. So removing some of these things that might be stimulating us is the first step. That's physical grounding. Even using things, the only oil I've found that's definitely safe, and I would encourage everyone to have a try at it, is tea tree oil. Pure tea tree oil, you'll get it in most kind of, you get it even in health places, you'll get it in the first aid aisle. Usually people use it for cuts and scrapes and spots and things like that. If you use something like tea tree oil, a couple of drops on the hand, through the aura, that'll help to clear you. But nothing will ground you as effectively during spiritual awakening as a little bit of a break from constantly being charged into that charger, okay? So really important to just have that little break for yourself. So that's the physical grounding, but there are two aspects to this, okay? If you are trying to ground yourself and it's not working, if you have spiritual awakening signs and symptoms that won't go away and that are really intense, then there's something missing. And that something missing is energetic downloads. So I don't know if you caught the video from last week. We did an energy healing session and we used energy downloads. So energy downloads are like a healing or a teaching. It's a program that puts something in place to support your energies and to support your system. So for example, we can bring in definitions from Creator because it's that high vibrational energy we're working with. It surpasses all the other levels because they're all governed by different laws, different tricks, different limits. We go right to the top, we work with Creator, and what we do is we ask for clarification on certain things, and we bring in things that your system might not know how to do. And what I'm finding is that certainly for me or for other people, they're coming through awakening and their systems are so blasted open by this whole experience that the soul doesn't know how to ground their energy. It just doesn't know how to kind of change in accordance with this new energy that's coming in, because it's higher vibrational, it's more powerful than anything we've ever experienced before, and we need to teach our energies how to ground throughout this challenging process. We do that with downloads. So the downloads are a way of teaching your system how to stay grounded or how to do anything else that it needs to know. So think of it like the physical grounding, the removing of things that are charging you in your space, and the using of things that are going to ground you, like tea tree oil, like walking barefoot, like good wholesome food. You have to eat often to really keep that density, physical density in the body. These are all important things, but then we need to address the energetics as well. And the energetics, it's important that we put the foundations in place to support your energy throughout the whole awakening process. That's really, really important, okay? So what we're going to do today is we're going to do some of these energy downloads because it can be a little confusing to understand exactly what they are and what they mean. So we're going to cover that by giving you a real example of it, letting you experience what it's like. And we're also going to do some questions. So if you have questions, pop them in the comments, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. But yeah, we'll do some downloads, and that should really help to bring that anxiety and release it in a lot of ways. But please remember, you can't do one without the other. It doesn't work to just do energetics and not do any physical grounding. And it doesn't work to do all this physical grounding without the energy downloads. It's a merging of, like we say, heaven and earth. You've got to meet in the middle, and you've got to support on both sides of the scale, because you are a physical being having a spiritual experience, and you have to meet those two things in the middle to support so that you're not out of alignment. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay, so let me just check if we've got any questions, because I don't want to miss anything that anyone's asked. Let me see. Okay, so I can see there's a few people saying that a lot of them can't work because they've got such terrible anxiety, or their experience is so challenging that they just can't do that. That's just awful. And don't worry, it's quite common as part of the experience that you come away from traditional working route and your soul's trying to find another way, and it usually does that by making work unbearable or making you literally, you know, incapable of doing it. So it will pass. I'm sending you love and hugs. It will be okay, but it happened to me too, and then I got aligned with my purpose, so something good's coming if that's happening. Okay, Rachel says, I'd never thought to stop using my crystals, yoga and meditation practice. It sounds like it would take me backwards, but I'm willing to try it. Rachel, it's tough. It's tough because we enjoy these things. But like I say, it's not forever. Just test it. Test it for a week or two and see how you feel. When you are finally grounded, doing a little bit is okay. But doing it consistently all the time, that charge just builds up and up and up, and the anxiety gets worse and worse, and so do all the other symptoms. You need to just support your physical body through this process. So just see how you feel, test it. Just always say to people, don't take my word for it, test it out. Let's see, Hayley, take away my radio at night. No, radio's fine, music's absolutely fine. Let's see, Jeannie is saying, Olivia, this is her daughter, has always said that meditation made her feel worse, but everyone reacted like that's really strange. It is strange. It's the opposite of all the information that I got when I was awakening, and I couldn't understand why people kept saying, just use this crystal, just use this oil, just, you know, walk barefoot outside. And I could feel it within myself, these things just would not work. They just flat out did not work for me, or they made me worse, and it was really frightening. Hi to Tony. Jabo, is that the right name? Having spasms and pain in the body, massive sign that you're really ungrounded. What happens when you get physical complications in your body? It's your soul is trying to draw your focus onto the physical body. The best way to do that? Pain and discomfort, because it makes you focus on the body. It makes you focus on that area of pain or discomfort. So it's actually an attempt by your body to just really whip you back into your body as fast as it can. And also what can happen is if you're leaving your body too much, you're triggering fight or flight system a little bit, because your body can feel that the survival's threatened if you're leaving the body too often. Just focus on that grounding as much as you can, and you'll probably need to do it for about 2 weeks. Consistent grounding, removal of the things that are charging you, and you should find that those spasms and physical pains really, really improve. Let's see. Okay, Jason's saying, what if I have a spiritual block? I used to be really good, and I was finding I was moving on in my spiritual practices. Then all of a sudden I felt like I just lost it. Happened to me too. You're not alone, and you won't be the first. It might be interesting for you to have a look at some of the people who have gone through spiritual emergence, because that tends to be when you actually lose your abilities. That happened to me too. So went for about 4 years consistently, you know, asking my guides for guidance, more accurately crying in meditation and begging for help. That was more accurate to what was really going on. You know, really used my intuition all the time, was feeling and sensing things all the time, used it in my work, in my sessions. All of a sudden had this crash, and all of a sudden there was no intuition there, no guidance, no information. It was as if psychic ability didn't exist. That's how it felt. It was like, oh my God, it's gone. I couldn't feel anything, couldn't feel source, couldn't feel God. Plunged me into dark night of the soul. But you know, sometimes this happens because we're too ungrounded, and Spirit's actually trying to get you to be grounded again. And it's like it has to kind of cut the cord a little bit just to get you to get your roots back down. But what I can tell you, Jason, is when you get your roots fully back down and you're really grounded, and spirit can recognise that you're stable and you're able to hold in this vibration, and they know that you can handle it, it'll switch back on. And I'll tell you another thing, it'll be 100 times better than it's ever been before. Because I know for me and many of my clients, after you've had a block like that where it's cut off and then it switches back on, your intuition is clear as a bell. And it totally transformed my sessions. So it'll come, don't worry. Let's see, Melanie. What about people who have awful anxiety and are doing nothing spiritual? You're probably still charged in some way. So I would say that if you're not doing any, spiritual work, if you're not doing meditation, if you're not doing yoga, because these are all ones that people don't think about. If you're not doing anything physically like that, I would look around the physical space that you live in, remove the crystals, remove the incense, remove the oils, just for just now, because it's so heightening and triggering that our energies are just so volatile, and it will actually improve. But people say to me, I've tried all this stuff, I've stopped doing this and this, and it's not getting any better. And then I always talk to them and I find there's something there that's still stimulating their energy. So just really take a good look around and see what's around there that could be making it worse. Rachel. I've been in such a dark place lately that I've been having suicidal thoughts. Do you have suggestions on how to turn these thoughts around? Rachel, it's not uncommon. There's a level there that's it's not quite suicide. What's the right word? Wanting to go home. I went through that too. I remember hitting an absolute low, and it wasn't even. It's void of really wanting to physically harm yourself. I just had enough. I just want to go home, and that's common because your soul's wakening up. And there's a realisation of you're here, but you're also up there, and there's a bit of confusion. Grounding will help this. Usually we get into a challenging mental state when we're not grounded enough because your brain doesn't have time to catch up. So please, please, please focus on that grounding. Take away all the stimulants and then try to look at things that are going to bring joy to your day. Standard things. Don't go into meditation. Don't go looking after guides if you can avoid it. Keep it on focused on the physical so that you're being grounded. And you're doing things that are going to give you that little bit of a lift. Even if it's just a funny TV show or spending some time with some friends or family, something just to give you that little bit of a lift. It could be past life. I'm just tuning into you. There's some past life stuff going on there as well for you that I feel like suicide's come up as a theme in your life, but it will clear. It's just really hard at the time, so stay as grounded as you can. Okay, last one, and then we're going to get into these downloads for now. So Rebecca's saying, I wear crystals a lot, always have, but I don't know if I could part with them either. I think they're releasing some stuff for me, so I'll try to remove them from my room. Yeah, I would say don't get rid of them. Hold on to them because they're yours and they're something that you're going to want once this, moment is over. So just put them out of the space for now, and then you can reintroduce them in a few weeks when you feel quite stable, but just do it in little bits and just make sure that you still have that stability there because that's really important. But also know that there are other ways to release things. So while I say energy therapies and things like that are not a good idea because they can be too stimulating, if you do them correctly, they're okay. So I would advise something like Eft tapping, which I'll be covering soon because I know a lot of you have got emotion you want to release, and the technique that I'm using where it's just downloads because we're not doing it for long extended periods of time, and we'll ground you at the end as well. So that's really important. So I know other people have comments and questions. I'll try to get to them as much as I can. But let's do some downloads for now because I know everyone's eager to get those downloads, and we'll see where that takes us. So first of all, if everyone can just completely relax. It's up to you whether you close your eyes or you have them open. It makes no difference to the downloads whatsoever. And just as a note as well, if you're watching this and it's not live, it doesn't make any difference. The time doesn't exist. The intention's still there. I'm still programming that energy to go in. All that really needs to happen is that you're accepting of it. It makes no difference to when you watch it at all. Okay. And it's also important that you know, as I'm tuning into the group of us here, that your soul will only take in what's truly applicable and beneficial to you. So your soul is still in conscious awareness of this, and it'll only take in what's really appropriate. Okay, asking Creator to connect us together, to connect me to everyone watching this video, everyone who ever will watch this video, and also that we hold the intention that this video finds anyone who truly needs it, someone who's really in need of that help. Thank you. Right, let's see. Oh, very charged. Very, very charged. Okay, so you might feel some strange sensations as some of this energy is moving. Just let it flow. And I'm also sensing there's a few of you that are right on the edge emotionally. You're feeling quite broken. So if some tears come up, if you get really emotional, you just let that emotion flow. It's absolutely okay, and I've got you. I'm holding your energy here. And I won't let you go, so... Okay, first of all, asking Creator to release the excess charge of energy that we're carrying within us. Release any excess anxiety and any unnecessary anxiety. There are a lot of tight stomachs in this group. I can feel everyone's like really anxious. Okay. Asking Creator to show you the true meaning, understanding and definition of relaxing. What it is to relax, what it means to relax. And show some of you how to relax, because I'm feeling that some of you are like go, 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 go people, and you're not really so good at the relaxing thing, so we'll bring that in. Okay, also asking Creator to release any pent-up worry. Any worry that you've been carrying about your experience, about your life. Ooh, about your survival. Some of you really get concerned about your survival there. Ask that that's gently released from the system, all that tension. And any pertaining exhaustion that's come as part of that. First of all, let's ask Creator to show you the true meaning, understanding and perspective of safety. Let's show you what real safety is, what it means and what it really feels like for you to know in the depths of your soul that you are absolutely, completely and utterly safe. To know that you're guided by Creator and that you'll continue to be. This is interesting. I'm being shown that we need to bring in the energy of forgiveness, which doesn't seem related to anxiety, but there's some worry there, so we'll just take that guidance. So asking you to be downloaded with the true perspective, understanding and definition of forgiveness. Let's show you what forgiveness is, what it means and what it really feels like. Not only to forgive others, but to forgive yourself. There's a lot of emotion there, so let's also release any emotion that's been carried from any and all times that you feel you did anything wrong. You feel that you ever hurt anyone, that you ever harmed anyone, and let's show you the truth that everyone here is just learning their lessons. And it's all divinely guided. And that everyone connected was an active participant. They agreed to be part of this before we came down here. Yeah, I can feel the heaviness as everyone's energy is just starting to really move back into the body. Yeah, that's all I'm being shown for now. So let's ask Creator just to, first of all, show you what it is and what it means to be fully grounded in your physical body. Let's show you how to ground your energy into your physical body. Show you that it's safe for you to reside here. And ask that we anchor your energy and your physical body to Mother Earth. To show you that you are held and supported by Mother Earth, that you can feel comforted here, that you know that you're welcome and it's safe to feel that you belong. Okay, so everyone just take a nice deep breath. Okay, as we're finishing that, I can feel that there's a lot of tension and tightness in tummies. So if you have a lot of anxiety and you particularly feel it in the stomach area, that's going to be continuing to release for you as time goes on. So for everyone who's just done the downloads, please know that you can be gentle with yourself. There's nothing you can do that will undo the downloads. If your soul has taken them in, it's taken them in, and that's perfect. It'll hold, they're permanent, and they'll improve these changes, but you've got to bring that physical grounding in too. So just have that balance there, okay? So having a little look, so we're just over 30 minutes, so I'll answer just a few more questions because I don't want to hold everyone up, and then we will be done. Okay, Mary Joanne, let's see. Feel as if I'm floating out of my body all the time, can't stop astral travelling, really ungrounded always. What about portals and how to close them up? Okay, so here's the thing. If you find that these things are happening out with your control, it's because you're too charged. So what happens when we get really, really charged, it opens up our psychic senses, like it blasts them open. And when they're blast open in that manner, you lose all your psychic boundaries. And we intuitively know that you need those psychic boundaries there. It's like making your psychic space a public rest stop where anyone can, you know, stop by, anyone can mosey around. You'll get pulled into things that you maybe didn't want to go, and it also means that you'll find yourself travelling without being consciously aware of it, without really having that control over it. Don't worry, I went through that too. Yeah, I had a great time. All these horrible signs and symptoms, I went through it too. The best way is to focus on grounding and stop trying to do anything that's connected with that for now. So you want to avoid any meditation, or what normal ritual would you go into that ends up taking you into that astral travel. Try to avoid that for now, and you'll find that if you give yourself, I was going to say 2 weeks, but I'm being impressed to say 3 weeks. It's going to take you 3 weeks to really fully ground that energy, and you'll find that when you do massively. So if that's happening without your say-so, it's because there's none of those psychic boundaries there, and it's because you're too blasted open. So you want to hone that energy in, and it'll become more balanced. And when it does, that's when you'll have the Hi guys, sorry I don't know what happened there. But when that does happen, you'll have the conscious opportunity to be able to decide when you want to connect like that, and when you don't. It'll be your conscious choice rather than getting dragged away with it. Okay, let's see. One more and then that'll be us. Okay, Belinda. Can events or situations be included as things that are charging you, or is it specifically spiritual things? Spiritual things that are charging you. The things that are coming up, the events, the situations that are coming up are part of that heightened emotions. It's part of your soul trying to make sure that you get triggered by everything, because what we can feel, we can heal. So you'll find that things are happening in your daily life on purpose to trigger you and really drive that stuff up. It's not very nice. But if it's happening too quickly, the more you can ground yourself, the more that'll calm down a little bit. Because when we're too charged and that stuff's blasted wide open, everything comes up really, really fast and you can't get a handle on it. But if you just bring that grounding in a little bit, things come up just that little bit slower, and you can take your time to see them one by one and work through it. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to say this one last thing to Marie Joanne. What do you recommend? Love Reiki. Should I stop for a while? Yeah, you should stop for a wee while if you can. Just a little while, like I say, till you get those energies grounded, and then you can practice it in little bits. But I know for me, you know, for a long time I couldn't do any of this work. It was just too volatile and I spun out of control. I had to learn to control it. And that's what this is really all about. It's learning to discharge those energies and then learning to control them with this new energy in place, because that energy's kind of staying. This new vibration is here to stay, and it's going to change you and your vibration, and you need to show the universe and train your soul to really be able to hold that. So get some of those things out of the space, use the energy downloads to put the spiritual energetic programs in place to support that, and be that bridge. Those two worlds will come together and things will get much easier. Okay, so I think that's us for today. Lastly, I will always say, if you haven't already got it, the 5-day free grounding course, I put so much work into it. It is the vital knowledge if you are having